Just before dawn on September 17, 1862, a thick fog clung to the fields of Sharpsburg, Maryland. The sun had not yet risen, but the countryside was already trembling with the footsteps of more than 100,000 soldiers, men who had marched, camped, and suffered for months under the brutal weight of the American Civil War. None of them knew it yet, but this morning would birth something unimaginable, the deadliest single day in American history. The battle would be remembered forever as Antietam. The road to Sharpsburg. General Robert E. Lee, commander of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, had crossed into Union territory for the first time. His goal was to bring the war onto Northern soil, win a decisive victory, and possibly force Britain or France to recognize the Confederacy as an independent nation. But fate turned sharply against him. Union soldiers discovered a misplaced copy of Lee's battle plan Special Order 191 wrapped around 3 cigars in a field. When the document reached Union Commander General George B. McClellan, he realized he had been handed the greatest military gift of the war. "If I cannot whip Bobby Lee with this," he reportedly said, "then I will never whip him." McClellan mobilized his massive army and marched toward Antietam Creek, the cornfield, hell unleashed. As the first rays of dawn broke the fog, the peaceful Miller cornfield transformed into a killing ground. Union troops under General Joseph Hooker slammed into Confederate forces commanded by Stonewall Jackson. The stalks of corn stood tall at sunrise, but within hours they were shredded flat by bullets and cannon fire. Soldiers described the cornfield as a place where men fell like leaves in autumn. Regiments advanced and retreated again and again, trading control of the same few acres at a horrifying cost. One soldier recalled that the air was so thick with gunfire that it felt like walking through hot sand. Bodies were piled everywhere, blue and gray, mixed so closely it was impossible to distinguish friend from foe. By mid-morning, 8,000 men lay dead or wounded in the cornfield alone. But the slaughter was far from over. The Sunken Road. The bloody lane around 9:30 a.m., Union forces shifted toward an old, worn-down farm lane. Confederate troops had taken cover in the natural trench, creating a nearly perfect defensive position. As Union soldiers charged forward, the lane exploded with musket fire. The Confederates held the position for hours, mowing down wave after wave of attackers. But eventually, under relentless pressure, their line broke. Union soldiers stormed the trench, discovering the horrifying scene that would give the place its new name, Bloody Lane. The road was filled with bodies stacked 2 and 3 deep. One eyewitness said the blood ran like water after a storm. The trench that once protected Lee's men had become their mass grave. Burnside's bridge. A desperate fight. By afternoon, Union General Ambrose Burnside focused on a narrow stone bridge crossing Antietam Creek. Only a handful of Confederate sharpshooters held the high bluffs above it, but their position was so strong that they held off thousands of Union troops for 3 hours. Again and again, Union soldiers charged across the bridge. Again and again, they were cut down. Finally, around 1 p.m., the Confederates were forced back and Burnside crossed. It looked like the Union would finally crush Lee's army, but Lee had one last surprise. Confederate reinforcements under A.P. Hill, who had force-marched from Harper's Ferry, arrived just in time. They struck Burnside's exhausted soldiers in a sudden counterattack that pushed them back toward the creek. The final blow never came, but Lee's escape was secured. The battlefield fell silent as night approached. The deadliest day when the guns finally stopped. 22,700 Americans were dead, wounded, or missing. No other day in U.S. history, not D-Day, not Pearl Harbor, not 9/11s, has matched the sheer number of lives lost in a single 24-hour period. The battlefield looked like a vision of hell. The cornfield was a wasteland. Bloody Lane was filled with bodies. Burnside's bridge was stained red. The wounded cried out into the cold night. Soldiers from both sides lay in fields too deadly to approach for hours. But Antietam was more than just a horrific battle. It was a turning point in the entire war. The aftermath. A nation transformed. Though tactically a draw, Antietam gave President Abraham Lincoln the momentum he needed. Lee's invasion of the North had failed. The Union held the field. And Lincoln used this moment to announce one of the most important documents in American history, the Emancipation Proclamation. Issued shortly after the battle, it declared that enslaved people in Confederate states would soon be free. It shifted the war from a conflict about union to a moral fight for human freedom. Antietam changed American history. It reshaped the Civil War. It redefined the nation's purpose. But it came at a cost written in the blood of thousands. On that one terrible day at Antietam, the United States learned just how high the price of freedom could be.